Thank you for staying with us. We'll start with the OT region, where more families are fleeing escalating communal tension in the Nkwanta South Municipality. Residents describe the security situation as deteriorating rapidly and fear for their lives. Reports indicate that the home of a Chade chief in Banache was set ablaze early Monday morning, resulting in at least 3 deaths. JoyNews' Peter Senu spoke with a family on the move who said they have no specific destination. Meanwhile, the OT region, where the Regional Security Council has shut down schools in the area following renewed communal violence, the clashes have led to 2 students dead and 3 others injured in separate incidents, one shot while in class and the other on her way to school. 10 people have been arrested so far in connection with the violence. OT Regional Minister John Kwejo Japon spoke earlier on Newsdesk.
It's cool now. When you talk about Nkwanta town, I think there is some peace there. Everybody is going about his work normally. Then in other areas, for now, haven't heard bad news. So when it's about the current, I think the current situation is okay. There's no problem. We haven't sleeping anywhere. But yesterday was a bad day. Yesterday was bad, where reports about 4 deaths in Nkwanta Municipality. 1 person died in Kiri, and then 3 people were killed tonight. Yes, in the evening. Oh yeah, we have made the schools are closed down in Nkwanta town and its environment. Yeah, wherever these issues are happening, the schools have been shut down. And when you come to Nkwanta, other businesses are also closed down their work. All the banks that work in Nkwanta are closed down. The system also closed down, and people are leaving the town, the municipality. Yeah.
Now, to tell you how serious this is, more families are fleeing escalating communal tensions in the Nkwanta South Municipality. Our residents describe the security situation as deteriorating rapidly and fear for their lives. Reports indicate that the home of an Achade chief in Banache was set ablaze early Monday morning, resulting in at least 3 deaths. Peter Senu has been speaking with the family, which is on the move, and said they have no specific destination and will stay wherever they find refuge.
Baby, I don't need yes, I'm Anjania. Be kummi. I'm your Kiani. Okay. So, I know the best. I feel Krana said me qua Mekwa Konyaka Krebi. Send ye bear bent beshes of Betimia Mai and Tokwano Brass na Ubiaranya Nuntiase, Nay Naya Sako Transia boom. And one a here, and Tina, I join every woman, Pesabia, Midina or now, Mabe Bomitua. Now, send me wounds are not my semi life. In tears a semi journey, Namitimi, who Nasa bank of Patanco in Tokwano Nasa Joa, na my son called my cheek.
At the moment, our properties are being burnt. Our kings, our chiefs, they are burning their houses in Bunache. They burn our chief store in Nkwanta. They continue to burn a suburb of Nkwanta, Power. They are burning properties in Power. They burn motorking and rail motorbikes. They burn houses. Concombers burn houses. We saw them. This one, the former minister, who is a Concoba man, has declared that his people are not part of this conflict. And then the former minister, Machuto, is going in our communities, educating us that the concombers are not part of the conflict. But at the moment, we are seeing the concombers attacking our people, specifically Keri, Power, and then Bunache, and they are killing our people as at this morning, as I'm speaking with you. That is our worry. Nobody is protecting our properties. When we have life, we can still make other properties again. So we have left the property for them to destroy. our life first. That is why we are traveling out of Nkwanta Township.
I'm having 4 children. My sister too is having 2 children. My sister is admitted at hospital. He's not feeling well. It's 3 days now. So I cannot run without the children. So I have to take them all along with me. I'm just moving anywhere that anybody who will take care of me, I will get any place to sleep, I will go. Because you will be in the room, the way they are shooting, you cannot even sleep. We are in Nkwanta Town before we run to the village. Now they are not attacking the villages. That is the reason why we are running away. Even shooting some of our peoples, so I have to run away. I don't know where my husband is now. I don't know, brother. No, when I call my husband, I don't even get him. Because everybody is running. So because I'm a nursing mother, I can't run without my children. So I have to take my children with me. Any place I will go, if I will die with my children. I'm pleading with the government to come to our aid. They should stop the people who are doing that. Especially those who are wearing the military uniform. So you may see that one person wearing a uniform, you are running to the person will shoot you. Maybe when I see a military man coming, I was thinking that when I run to that person, the person I'll be rescued. But the moment I'm going, the person will shoot me. How sure that person is a military man? This is what has happened. Now we run to our villages. Now they are not attacking the villages. They are killing our peoples. So I have to run away with my children. Please, I'm called Helen.
Well, Peter Sedu is our OT regional correspondent and is just joining me with more updates. Peter, so let me know, let's do some numbers or figures. How many people so far have been killed in these renewed clashes?
MFR, as we speak, there is no official figure from the police as we know. But if we would count per our reports or sources on the ground, 3 people, they said, died this morning at Bonache, plus one of the students who passed away last week writing his exam. That should be 4 that we can work with. But we have not had any official communication from the security front as exactly the numbers that have fallen as a result of this conflict.
I mean, because you have mentioned the security front, let me know, what is it like so far in Nkwanta district? Do you have security personnel presence there?
So, in fact, security presence has been on the ground since, I think last year or last 2 years. And in fact, last night, we've witnessed the passing of some military men still into the Nkwanta area. And so we would want to believe that security is being beefed up by the day. But what the minister said has some truth, that the fight is happening at the outskirts of the Nkwanta town itself. And so some of them may be happening at the blind side of the security personnel who are to take charge of the situation there. And so as and when it happens, they would move to salvage the situation. But so that is what is happening. But for security, I can say that security men are on the ground, the police, the military, to salvage the lives and property as and when necessary.
I mean, you talk of it's not happening particularly in the Nkwanta township, but its environs. Have you been able to measure the response time or rate, because the personnel are not at the environs, but they are in the Nkwanta township itself? How swift are they able to respond if there's any clash?
Yes, that is a difficulty, especially what is alleged to have happened at Bonache this morning. In fact, from Nkwanta town to Bonache, the road is terrible. So definitely it will take the military or the security personnel an amount of time to drive to that location. And it's about 20 or more minutes drive from Nkwanta town to that location. So if anything happens within this time period, a lot would have gone wrong before their presence on that location. And so they may be doing their best, but the terrain may be rough for them to navigate to get to the various destinations as and when they are called upon to. MFR.
So, Peter, for families that we have just seen, how many of such families do you think are fleeing? Is it quite serious, or these are just the families that we're just reporting?
from what I know and I have seen, it is a serious situation that a lot more families are living the Nkwanta area. If I talk about workers, and if this is just a family I just chanced on doing my normal round. If they were initially stopped by the police and then their accounts were not making up to the police. So I would have to trace them down to Jessica and to have this interview done with them. And so if I stopped them earlier, they were afraid to stop midway, and so I have to drive to town to explain myself, identify myself properly before they granted me this interview. So it may not be one-off thing. This is what is happening currently from Nkwanta. Families are fleeing, especially as they have alleged that the authorities are under siege by other tribes. That is what they are alleging. So if this is true and anything to go by, a lot more families, in fact, we see the cars pass by every day loaded with bags, and then the police are also interacting with them. But I just interacted with some police authorities in and around Jessica this afternoon, and they have also corroborated that a lot more families are passing every minute, and then they have to interact with them as and when they stop to inspect where they are going. MFA.
Well, Peter, I know that this afternoon you reported, and as well the regional minister mentioned that schools have been shut. And what's the situation? Complete shut, partial shut, every school in and the Nkwanta environment, is that it?
Yes, in fact, complete shutdown of school, especially within the Nkwanta South, the municipal capital itself. Talk about Brownias schools are in session, and then towns that are further away, we have schools in session. But Nkwanta municipality proper, which is the municipal capital, schools are shut down completely. And then this is the time that third years writing their WASI are preparing feverishly to write their final exams, and in the midst of all these things, their preparations, we see all these things rear its ugly head. And so, well, for me, authorities will have to stamp their feet on the ground and make sure that the education of these younger ones are not unduly disrupted due to. In fact, if this continues, it means that a lot more of them will have to move to other centers to write their exams, which may not be comfortable, one, for the students, and for maybe government, who would have to look for accommodation for these young ones and also feed them. And so there are, in fact, wider-reaching effects of this conflict than what is currently happening in Nkwanta. MFA.
All right, so we've just talked about education. Let's talk about the other sectors. What is it looking like in the hospitals? What's it looking like in the banks, the marketplaces? Helen, who you just spoke to, that family woman who says she's a nursing mother, accounts that her sister is in the hospital. Do we have health workers over there providing the services, or they are as well fleeing?
In fact, the health workers, teachers, as I know and have seen some of them, they are almost all fleeing in Nkwanta Township. As we may have reported earlier, only a few departments in the two hospitals in there are working. In fact, those on admission will have to be taken care of. They cannot discharge them. But those departments that may not necessarily require admission of patients and other critical services, workers are leaving and the departments are being empty. We can only pray that the situation is calmed down for workers to return. Banks are also folding up from the area, and this definitely will affect the economic lives of the people in and around the Nkwanta municipality. MFA.
Right. Do you know whether the security have announced different measures they are using to curb the situation, or it's business as usual?
Well, we are not told, not that we can report off now, but we should believe that they are able enough to contain this situation from getting out of hand. MFI.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Peter. Detailed report over there. But still on this matter, let's speak to Daniel Fenyi, and especially because WASI exams is just nearly in a month, and we want to know what the GES will be doing at least to help the students who are not in class currently, and he speaks for GES in that sector. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, Daniel, or if you would like, Mr. Fenyi. What's GES doing at least to curb the situation? Of course, we know that WASI should be starting shortly.
Indeed, MFA, I should say that ever since the issue of the conflict broke out, we have had extensive conversation with the headmaster of the school, Solomon. We have engaged the district directorate, we have engaged the regional directorate, to understand what exactly is happening and how the way forward looks like. Of course, this matter borders strongly on security, so we are not able to delve into the technical security issues. However, we can assure our students and we can assure our teachers as well that we are currently having plans, discussing issues, and looking at how best they can ride the Awasi in the safest of environment possible. We know that the conflict, if it festers for some time, would interfere strongly in the writing of the Wasi, especially in Nkwanta Township, where we are learning that we have 3 senior high schools. And so 3 senior high school students will be writing the Wasi. But definitely, if the conflict persists, then that means they wouldn't be able to write in Nkwanta Township. So meetings are ongoing, discussions are ongoing, and we hope to finalize our discussions as soon as possible to come out with the modalities on where, how, when our children can ride the Wasi. But the assurance they can get from us as Ghana Education Services that they won't miss the Wasi. We are putting in place every measure to ensure that they ride the Wasi with their colleagues all across the country. And we are making sure that, this conflict goes beyond them. So they can't be punished for what they didn't cause, or they can't be punished for what they are already victims of. And so I can assure them that they will not miss the Wasi examination.
Right, Daniel, thank you for that assurance. So if I hear you well, it looks as if you're at least coming up with a way, some modalities which these students or these candidates can take the exams. But before that, it's a month away. And of course, I've been a student before. There still will be tuition. There will still be classes. Will this mean that the GES is not considering that time frame and what they need to be doing in preparation ahead, and the focus is on the exam taking only? Or you're considering that as well?
Of course, we are. In fact, this is a very, very tempting moment for our learners, for our teachers, and for WAEC, the examination body. So we are in constant touch with all the important stakeholders in this to ensure that our learners would have good time to revise, because we know they are in the revision stage. In fact, the report we got was that one of our students got hit by a bullet and even pronounced dead when they were in the middle of writing their mock examination. So currently we know our students are in preparation, are writing mock examinations. Some are revising their books, some are revising their textbooks. Teachers are supporting them. I mean, these are the final laps of the academic journey. And so this is a very serious times for us. What we can assure our learners is that for the examination, we are putting in place all measures.
Right.
I can also confirm to you that the schools have closed down. We hope that as learners go home, it gets difficult when they are in their individual homes. It gets difficult for their teachers to reach them individually to teach them. However, we are currently planning on how best we can still support our learners in such period whilst they are revising, and then going forward, how best they can write the examination, the WASI examination, in the safest of environments and with a sound mind.
Right. Do we have any timelines as to when we'll hear from GES at all?
You should expect some modalities to be rolled out in the course of the week. As we talk, I know management is currently organizing themselves to structure some time frames, to structure how the whole examinations and their revision period should go and all that. So in the course of the week, we should be expecting that management of the Ghana Education Service will come out with the modalities that will inure to the benefit of our learners and then our teachers as well.
Thank you so much, Daniel Thingy. He's PRO for Ghana Education Service. Now, still on conflicts, efforts to resolve the protracted Bawku chieftaincy conflict have resumed as the Asantehene 2432 II engages the Kusat faction at the Mencha Palace. This is part of renewed dialogue to end decades of violent clashes between the Kusasi and Mamprose factions over the rightful occupancy of the Bawku skin. Sources at the Mencha Palace indicate that today's meeting will focus on hearing the concerns of the Kusak leadership, gathering proposals for peaceful coexistence and charting a path towards lasting reconciliation. Now, Washi Yadom has been following the story and has been giving updates.
They are not the very last faction to meet the Asantehene, but this is one of the largest factions in the conflict that are supposed to sit with the Asantehene this morning, this afternoon, while they find a lasting solution to the protracted conflict in Bawku.
And so you say they have arrived. Do we know how long they're staying in Kumasi or the Ashanti region?
Well, we are looking at between today and tomorrow, but sources at Mencha Palace confirmed that it is going to be a very brief engagement today because they arrived in Kumasi today, and then probably tomorrow they are going to have the extensive conversation. All of these is to make sure that the mediation process yields results. So it's going to be not sort of a long stay, but a very short one for them in the next 2 days in Kumasi. In the previous engagement between the Mamprose faction and the Kusasi faction, when they were here around the April 28th, we realized that the leadership alone was allowed to come into the palace. There were strict security restrictions given to them not to come along with their residents or probably supporters. So when we talk of leadership coming in, they are identified as the traditional council members and then the chiefs in the area. And so these are the people that constitute the leadership of the factions that are supposed to meet the Asantehene today. Tight security at the Mencha Palace. Anytime there is this form of engagement, you realize that these factions, although they are well situated in Bawku, they have some of their members or their people in Kumasi. And so sometimes we have their supporters come in with them, troop in with them. So almost every time they come in their numbers, but it is their leadership that are permitted into the inner perimeter of the palace.
Away from that, presidential advisor on the 24-hour economy, Guzetano, has revealed that the Secretariat will require $4 billion over 5 years to fully implement the policy. He noted that the government will provide $300 million in seed funding to be disbursed in tranches to kickstart the rollout. The 24-hour economy was a key campaign promise by the NDC in the run-up to the 2024 elections. 6 months into the new administration, the government is set to officially launch the policy on July 2. Speaking to the press ahead of the launch, Tano outlined the funding needed to unlock the policy's full potential.
Of 24-year-olds and 69-year-olds. So we've more or less covered the breadth of the generation that is the working people of Ghana. And this program is actually designed, one, as a citizens program, not a partisan program. Two, it is designed as a living document to be adjusted, improved, as the experiences of implementing the program teach us the lessons that redirect us to essentially achieve the objectives of transformation, supply chain and markets efficiency, human capital development, and a responsiveness through training, through education of the Ghanaian worker to the digital economy and its emerging transformation of societies. We spoke to almost everybody that we should speak to in relation to those who are particularly in the private sector, in the development finance institution milieu, commercial banks, and many others. I believe that, if I'm not wrong, we've spoken to more than 250 individuals or institutions. And so the work of the 24-hour economy is really the work of many, and not just a few from the Secretariat that you see here. And I believe that at the appropriate time, tomorrow, you'll see the list of the individuals who participated. I'm afraid I have to accuse Bernard because he's the cause of all this trouble that got me to the presidential advisory position, which was sparked off by the last interview we had before the national elections. But basically, if you want to run a 24-hour economy, then you must have capacity utilization that allows you to implement a 3-shift economy. You must have levels of production output. You must have qualitative products that are accepted and wanted by the market, and you must be price competitive. Don't forget that we spend almost $3 billion importing food. If you go into the details of what we import, you will discover that most of that food can be delivered by our farmers and our manufacturers in the food and beverage sector. The most important thing is that we achieve the levels of competitiveness, output growth that supports industry and supports also our traders so that they can export. NASA will give us a detailed presentation, but the ethos of this program is that our Ghanaians, we must be tired of being poor and being described as poor when we have such vast resources and also the potential for an extraordinarily improved human capital that will drive this program. The program is principally a private sector program, and we believe that the private sector, both domestically and internationally, will step up to the investment opportunities that are created by the program and indeed by government's overall economic policy. Because one thing that is always important to remember is that no matter, particularly in our circumstances, no matter how much integrity, consistency, and stability we are able to achieve at the macro level, the support for reinforcing that macro stability must be growth at the enterprise level. And that is what this program is designed to achieve.
Now, let's explore this a bit further. And joining me on Zoom this afternoon is Richard Ahiagba of the NPP. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And so you have heard what the government spokesperson on a 24-hour economy advisor has just said. We need $4 billion for the year period, the years in which they're going to be implementing the 24-hour economy. Of course, they're also making available a seed fund of $300 million. First of all, what's your reaction to this?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to your viewers and listeners. I think it's a good thing that we undertake 24 hours to help grow opportunities for young job production, because I come accept that the manner we promise is being communicated is wrong, is deceptive, and now we are faced with a reality that certainly the NEC cannot implement the 24-hour economy as it said. We told them, and we actually did draw attention to this, that it's not realistic. Economies or cities that implement 24-hour economy, there are propensities that they leverage. You don't create it. There are tendencies already of your economy that you leverage. So there is demand for certain products or lines of products to be made, and you leverage that demand to be able to expand capacity to meet the demand. But you don't just out of thin air say you're going to do 24-hour economy, and this is where we are now. And so unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that it was a make-believe promise. Now they cannot create that demand. The demand is not there. And so this is what this is about. So they are saying that they need $4 billion to create a certain demand. And the question is, where are you going to find it? Because it's not tied to anything. You understand? What is the cause of your policy? There is no cause. There's no problem that is trying to solve. So I think that we We need the government to come out clear. They say that they deceived us, but somehow they can find certain opportunity, maybe in agriculture, increase opportunity for agro production, and therefore around that engage in some processing of agri product, and then we can leverage the sub-region and then other opportunities within the agro space to try and increase exports, which then will then feed more production, and then maybe somehow we can be able to create the opportunity for more production because of demand.
Okay, so for you say that, well, the idea, the policy itself is a good thing, but you think that, just like what economists have said, that there must be some equilibrium, demand and supply, but we don't have the demand, and so it's not a feasible policy to implement. Is this what I hear you say?
Yeah, so certainly, the demand was not there, we're talking about it, but that is not to say that finding ways to create demand is not bad. It is bad, really, because what I guess the government should have promised would be to say that we're going to find ways to invest in agriculture, such that because of this increased production, there would be a need to process that. Then you create the processing capacity, or they will invest in expanding new markets, products that are made in Ghana. So Ghana, we're known for producing cocoa, so they will invest in ways that will increase our production, cocoa production, then processing of cocoa, which is a global product that will be in demand. So if they had said that, instead of just telling us 24-hour economy, and 24-hour economy in most countries, it actually revolves around nightlife. So things to do with restaurants, to do with place of entertainment and things like that. Those are the more situations that lend themselves to the 24-hour economy, and maybe in some productive sectors where there are natural demand for such products, then you can do that. But what the promise should have been that they will leverage opportunities for us to produce more, which then would have been a more realistic promise. But the idea that they're going to introduce a 24-hour economy in Ghana, which was deceptive from day one, but somehow the media romanced it and make it become a thing. Unfortunately, they are faced with the reality, and this 4 billion thing is just a big excuse that we can't do it. And then somehow they don't want to say we can't do it. So when they say 4 billion, you then tend to believe that because they can't find the 4 billion, they can't do it. But it's just an admission that it's not a feasible promise, and somehow they have to have a soft landing for themselves, which is to say that we need 4 billion.
Is that the impression you get because of the amount that's quoted? It is for over a period, they say, and then they have also made available the seed funding. And you say that the amount involved at least gives them the opportunity or an escape route. Is that what I hear you say?
Yeah, absolutely. If I just imagine 4 billion and say they are making a seed money available of 300 million, is that it?
Yes.
Just look at it. What is the ratio? Totally inadequate. So it's just a soft landing to say that we made that promise, we can't do it, but somehow the price tag tells you that they can't do it. And this is just a big excuse to say that they can't do it. But, the truth is that we need the opportunity for young. The New Patriotic Party, give it a choice. We're going to expand the one district, one factory. Maybe they should go back to that, create opportunity. Actually, where I am, I'm coming from my farm. You see potential across the country. There's lands and lands upon land. The NDC promised a farmer center. That's something that is needed now. Provide that opportunity for farmers, implement mechanized opportunities for people to have mechanized farms. That would drive production of agro products. So
they've indicated that they will share the modalities a bit later, or during the launch or after the launch, and then we can look at it critically. But commentary prior to the media engagement today will mean that they are largely inviting private sector. And so, of course, they have mentioned the 4 billion, but does this mean that it must come from government directly? Wouldn't it be like business where an interested party would also have to make some sort of investment commitment at all?
Yeah, well, but as a private business, what will be your motivation? If there's no demand for you, you can't just produce and house it, right? Like your multimedia, for example. If you don't have listenership in a certain language, you don't start a new program for that, right? The listener start a program in a certain language because we have listeners. If we don't, you won't do that. So if a private person will not just start up business for government about one 24-hour economy. They must commercially for them. Whatever product they want to increase and produce overnight must have a potential production. Otherwise, just do the hours, which then demand to be able to supply. So don't produce it because government wants to do. So this thing was not a typical concept they want. And as I indicated, the media, somehow you romanced it. You made it, something that our people bought into, but otherwise it's not. What we did have practical solutions. And I was just submitting to you that the one district, one factory proposal is good. Let's build from there.
What about the one district, one factory? Were you going to do differently if you were elected into power?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. The industrialization is based on comparative advantage. So every district where they have comparative advantage to produce certain commodity, government invest, enable that comparative advantage to grow. And once they produce, there will be natural off in the environment. You meet demand, then the excess export.
This comparative advantage will then mean that in that district, there's some form of demand that existed already, or you are now going to create the demand?
Not necessarily that the demand for all sorts of things exists in the country. And then for every export, it begins from domestic. You first of all produce to meet the domestic demand. Today, we are importing tomatoes, we're importing rice, we're importing maize, and all sorts of things. So when you go to Upper West, in the Sisala areas, they have comparative advantage to produce high-quality maize. Why don't you invest in that area and make sure that they produce so much rice that we have excess after we meet domestic demand? Then that excess we export. That is the model. That is the model that will work. So this whole political thing that it did over 24-hour economy was bogus to begin with. As I said, the media romanced it, you made it become a thing, and everybody believed it. Now here we are, the reality has hit. The price tag, $4 billion. I mean, it's just a big excuse that we can't do it. It's $4 billion. It's a big excuse.
So you don't think that this $4 billion, the government can raise it, whether directly or indirectly?
But they can't raise money enough to meet their demand, their domestic projects that they want to do. The big push, they said they were $10 billion, and they provided less than 10% of the funds they needed. And the $4 billion they are saying, the economy is not in a place to be able to cough up that amount. And right where we are, they can't do it this year. Now they're saying $4 billion. We told you this. And so next year budget, for $10 billion, they got less than 10%. So another $4 billion. Add that to their $10 billion big push, $14 billion. Where are they going to find that money from? So it's a big lie. And all of these things they are doing is a skirmish to just tell you we can't do it, and they'll blame it on the money not being available. The question is that when you're making the promise, didn't you see the potential? Didn't you see the opportunity for the money to do it? And we told you that this was a lie from beginning. And now the chickens are coming home to roost.
Right. If you'd stay with me, and I'll bring in Dr. Kojo Opoku. He is an economist, Senior Research Fellow, CSPS at the University of Ghana. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us today. And so you have just been hearing from government, says that it will need $4 billion over the 5-year period in implementing the policy to its fullest. It's also made available $300 million as seed funding. Let's look at the feasibility of that total amount in the 5-year period. Is this feasible? Doc, if you can kindly unmute.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. So if you could know the entire soup that the 24-hour economy is going to cook, then definitely we will be able to assess whether the equivalent of 40 billion Ghana cedis will be able to do that job. But before they give us that detail so that we can really assess it well, I think that our economy is capable of, getting $4 billion for 4 years. That means on average every year, $1 billion, which is about 10 billion Ghana cedis. So that's not anything that we cannot get. But the key question is about the clear motives of the 24-hour economy. I think as a policy strategy, we are basically starting from a wrong when the policy conceptually, when you are conceiving the policy and it is wrong, it makes everything that you add on becomes very difficult for people to appreciate it. So from economics point of view, when I listened to them, I could sense that they want to deal with employment issues.
Okay.
So that should be the key issue, that there's unemployment, youth unemployment, adult unemployment, even elderly unemployment in the economy. So you want to solve it. Then you sit down and bring a strategist to look at it. But here we are thinking about how can we, as Mr. Hayabot talked about it, we are thinking about how to shift some of the economy to the night, to 24 hours. What is the big deal if you employ all the youth and they work 8 hours from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.? What is wrong with that? So once you are not able to conceive it well, you bring a lot of policies and the policies cannot work and you don't get the results. So that is the thing that we should be thinking about. And besides, there is also policy inconsistencies. I think all of you, the media, everybody is happy that the city is appreciating, the government is happy, everybody is happy. But this is actually contrary to the thing of creating employment to your people. You are already suffering because you are not competitive. Your electricity prices are so high that businesses cannot produce and compete in the international market. Even the local, when they are imported from outside, like rice, they imported from China, Japan, or Vietnam, or US, when they have imported, pay transportation costs and everything, it is still cheaper than the local rice. And you are helping them by making your export and your import cheaper by making sure that exchange rate is appreciated. And here you are making people lose employment. And you are thinking of how are you going to solve? If you cannot help your in-law, why should you also help the other person as well? The people, your own people, you cannot subsidize, you cannot help them. US people are subsidizing for their families. You cannot help your people, and you are reducing their import that comes in the prices so that people will just strong it and import. So you can see that clearly there is policy inconsistencies. People just are doing things, they don't consider the overall effect of the actions that you take. So if we are actually sitting down and actually write down the policy that we are going to do, accept critiques and what we are going, probably we will not need that kind of even the 40 billion Ghana cedis amount that you need. You may not even need that, right? Because once your policy is right, maybe few amount that you can use to subsidize some companies that probably deals with importation of maybe foreign input and other things, amount that you can use to subsidize those amounts, not all a big amount to do what? So as I said, we don't know the entire thing that we are going to do, but from the starting point, I think the motive is not clear.
Okay.
Just to give work in the 24-hour or whatever it is.
Doc, let's stay at the starting point because that's where you have just landed your point. So they want to start with $300 million. Is this enough to at least start with a good momentum?
Well, I believe that they have done their mathematics and economics to understand that for the 4-year period, they need $4 billion. And if you need such amount and you start with, for the 4-year period and you start with $300 million, that is actually woefully inadequate because that is about, how much is it? Less than 10% of the amount that you need. Less than 10% of the amount that you need. So how are you going to, for the first, remember we are already, first half of the year is gone. So how much, maybe, I don't know the media budget, if it's going to be, so the first year is practically gone. And the next 3 years, you are going to, so if you look at the quantum, the amount that we need for this, according to their calculation, that needs to deliver the 24-hour economy, and the amount that they now have ready to give, then you can see that there is a little bit challenge in that. It is very difficult to look at how much they need and how much they are paying, woefully inadequate.
Well, so they mentioned that, of course, it will be in tranches. How, if I understand that, of course, they said they are going to release the modalities for us to understand. But are there any pros and cons in a policy such as this one, where funding is released in tranches? Is it a good business and economic move, or you anticipate some challenges?
No, sure. So the key challenge is basically on remember that we are coming from a situation where we have bedeviled, we have demonized government spending. And so the key challenge is that would government accept to create fiscal deficit to achieve this? Remember, the revenue side is usually very difficult to increase it. When you remember when they're even trying to increase tax, people are agitating against it. And it's because of how the current government, when they were in position, how they opposed every tax reform that the previous government was trying to bring up. So now there's a key challenge in raising revenues. And if you can't raise revenues, it means that if you want to do this thing and do it well, then you need to create fiscal deficit. And are they ready to go by that? Because it has been demonized that if you come into government and you have deficit, then you are not a good government. I mean, you heard of excessive borrowing and all those kind of things. And so for giving tranches, I mean, paying tranches, in fact, for this multi-year project, definitely that's what you're going to do. In fact, even World Bank project and all those, they won't give you the money on a go, but tranches, basically what you have achieved, they know that at this stage you have completed at this stage, then we give this amount to add on. So that's fine. But the problem is that are we ready to be what they call it on code, physically in discipline to achieve this? Because once you create fiscal deficit above 5%, they say you are indisciplined, you're excessive borrowing, or reckless borrowing, and all manner of things. So are they ready to be a little bit reckless to achieve this good policy, as you know now?
Well, Doc, finally, finally, and in wrapping this conversation, do I still have Richard Ahegba with me? I may have lost him, but Doc, before I let you go,
I'm here.
All right, okay, I'll come to you for your final words after you have heard Doc. But Doc, do you think that the country, its infrastructure, everything that you need, electricity, road, all the things, all the variables that you need to at least, the policy is here to implement it, from where you sit, an overview of it? As a country, are we really ready for 24-hour economy?
So, as I said from the beginning, I was talking about fiscal deficit, but the huge part is what we have is the real sector deficit. And this could include human development deficit, education and health sector. For your people to be able to work and produce well, their education level, their health level should be that high. Infrastructure deficit, but when you hear of deficit, we only talk about fiscal deficit. Sometimes you need to create deficit from one side in order to be able to make up another way. So for example, when you, even Accra here, if you have not traveled anywhere, Accra here, when you are driving around, you can see clearly a challenge of, infrastructure deficit, road. And you see our electricity prices, everything, they all not allow us to compete. That's why in places in my villages, when it is some season, the tomatoes prices and many other things are very cheap over there. By the time it gets to Accra, the price is very expensive because our road network is not good. So by the time the trader brings 4 trucks to Accra, maybe 3 of them are spoiled on the road, and the food staff will get spoiled. So they have to put all of these things. And so you need a coordinated way to solve this problem before you think about competing in it. And in that way, if you cannot compete at the moment, you just have to make sure that even what you produce, you give it to your domestic sector ahead of Mr. Ahaba talking about. So your domestic sector has to start with, so that you can develop your scale economy for the producers or industry to be competitive. But
thank you. Thank you, Doc. I'm sure we'll wait for the modalities and then we'll probably come to you again so that you can break it down even further for us. But Richard, if you're with me, you'd have the last word.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I agree by and large with Doc. But, you know, we need to interrogate even further. What are they going to use this 4 billion for? Because really right now you have an import deficit. Okay, we have a trade deficit in terms of export and import. We import more than we export. So this 24-hour economy, you can stimulate it simply from policy. What are they going to spend the $4 billion on? Okay. We import everything from toothpaste to maize and the rest of tomato, onions, and all of that. From policy, you can stimulate. And then, you know, Trump came in and all the tariff he's brought and all of those things is protectionism. It's protecting the American market. Where we can go through Parliament and put in policies that would help, okay? Right. Put tariff on the things that we can produce here that have been imported quite simply and easily, toothpick and the rest of those things that people go to China and bring all manner of things here. You can stimulate the farm economy by just through policy, so that the demand for them would exist because it cannot be brought from outside. Right. If it cannot be brought from outside, then the demand must be met. So agencies and businesses that are in that space would now be stimulated to employ more people to produce such things. So that, I don't think, requires $4 billion. So
thank you. I'm starting again, and as I've told Doc, we'll wait to the launch and wait for the modalities as well. But thank you for joining us, gentlemen, here on The Pulse. You're watching The Pulse with me, Emefa Akosiadeti. You want to stay with us a small after this.